Ready? Are we ready to go?
Yep.
All right. Good evening, everybody. I'm going to call to order the June 4th, 2025 Citizens Advisory Committee. Can we have a roll call, please?
Of course. Committee Member Knight?
Present.
Committee Member Kester?
Here.
Chair Harrington?
Here.
Committee Member Minkoff?
Here.
Committee Member Terrell?
Here.
Committee Member Castillo-White?
Here.
Committee Member Rizzo?
Here.
Committee Member Stephenson?
Here.
Committee Member Stevens?
Here.
And Vice Chair Barney, which I think I saw him running in. So, cool.
All right, should we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So I'm going to go ahead and move on to agenda item number 2 and open it up to any public comment on non-agenda items. We have nobody here. Is there anybody online who would like to leave public comment? I'm not seeing anybody, so we'll go ahead and close public comment. Go on to agenda item number 3, that is review and approval of the May 7th minutes. And everybody should have those attached to their packets. Yes.
Okay, under committee, where it says Rizzo the second time, it said that she's saying that public comments will be welcome. I said the public will be welcome, but no one was able to comment.
Is that under communication BD committee? Is that what you're saying?
Because we weren't allowed to, just the interview committee.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Also in the committee member comments, it says that I requested updated CAC information for the notebooks, but I was requesting that for like just in general, like all the committees and stuff, because it has like the papers that shows who's on what committees and they're all pretty outdated. Not just the CAC.
I would correct in the, where it refers to the date for the next game day. I'm sure during the meeting itself, I said it wrong, but the actual date is June 14th.
And what section is that?
It's in the committee comments, committee member comments.
Hold on.
Since I was probably talking off the top of my head, I probably did say June 12th, but the actual date is June 14th.
Okay.
What was your comment, Chris? Did you have a comment? Wasn't what was it again? I'm doing some track changes, so I want to make sure.
On the committee section, where we had our committee comments, it says that I requested updated CAC information for our notebooks. But I was actually requesting that just like for all the committees and everything in the notebooks, because it has the papers that shows who's on each of the committees and they're all kind of outdated.
Okay, cool.
So it wasn't just the CAC.
Anybody want to make a motion to accept with the changes, or do you have?
Yeah, sure, Chair. I would make the motion that we accept with amendments the meeting minutes for May 7th, 2025, Citizen Advisory Committee for City of Troutdale.
Second, Victoria.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Taken care of. Thank you, guys. So agenda item number 4. 4A, that is TCAB appointment. So I think currently Victoria is our representative for TCAB. Anything you want to share about that, or before we open it up for nominations?
Well, we reviewed it last night, and it's going to council. So, it's a long process still, learning very seriously. But I found it was a pretty good offer. I liked it with our little tweaks in there though. And they do run public comment, which would be great. I mean, we already have a lot, but they're gonna set it up so we get more. I was impressed, and it was a nicer interview than the last time.
Great. Oh, yes, Will.
The Town Center Advisory Board has been a pretty long process, and Victoria's been there through the entire process. And I believe that the amount of work to catch up, to get updated, to be knowledgeable, to be on the group is a lot. She's been doing amazing with that appointment, and I strongly recommend that this group continue the continuity of having our same representative to be able to be there throughout the entire process. And with that, I would like to nominate Victoria as our TCAB appointee.
And I will second that. Okay.
Second, any other nominations? Anybody online? No other nominations? I'm hearing, give it a couple more seconds in case somebody's just afraid to speak up. I'm gonna go ahead and, we have a vote then. All in favor of having Victoria represent us for, TCAP, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody in opposition? All right, congratulations.
And our condolences.
Yeah, our
It's very
condolences
fun.
also for the homework, I'm sure. Yes. All right, so B, meeting minutes explained. Is this you, Dakota?
Yes, so during the, I think it was planning commission, there's still been a couple disputes about how meeting minutes are prepared. And so that's why there's a handout up front that kind of goes over the requirements what we are required for meeting minutes. Really what it is we are required to give a brief overview of what was said in a meeting, not a word for word minutes like you would see. We've messed around with AI, trying to use that. We've also contracted a company that would do that as well, for just trying to see to get more word for word minutes. That tends to be more expensive and not what our budget can afford. So right now we're just going with here, and on this sheet, I'm not gonna go into too much detail, but this sheet explains exactly what is required for meeting minutes from the ORS and from the Oregon Revised Statutes. So that's what we as a city are required by the state of Oregon to keep our minutes. So yeah, attendance, actions taken, discussion of summary, and it's a very brief discussion. And as you'll notice, like for example, in the committee comments, it's just a really quick, like, hey, what was the primary topic? Any sort of documents, those will be referenced as well, and then any sort of public comment. All of them are posted online after they've been adopted. They're posted online under the meeting page for our committee. So yeah, that's just kind of a brief overview of how we handle meeting minutes, because I know it's still going from having transcribed minutes in the past to having no minutes for a chunk of time to now getting up to speed with minutes. It's been a bit of a process. We just don't have someone on staff that has the capacity to do full transcribed minutes. That takes a very long time. And this allows, Chris Ann does all of our minutes. This allows Chris Ann to still give us our minutes while being able to focus on her day-to-day duties as well. So, any questions?
Hi, Diane. The bottom part where it says public access, minutes or recordings must be available to the public within a reasonable time after the meeting, what does it say about retaining that information? Like, I would like to know that it was always kept for record, historical knowledge, and for future resources. A lot of times our council has gone into some discussion in trying to talk about history and the intent and how things occurred, or the way we voted or such. And I'm not sure how we're keeping all those meetings, and then for what period of time. We used to be able to access it on Metro Media, and they kept a long record. We had a problem when we were trying to look at a few of the city council meetings for information, and it wasn't there, and when we were looking for it, it was only a year after the meeting had occurred. And so that to me is incredibly important, but I don't know if it's important to others or what we're doing in that regard.
Typically, all of our recordings are on YouTube. I'm not sure for how long they stay up there, but I know that they're posted to our website right after the meeting. Usually it's in a day or two, whether or not our staffer who uploads them is in. So it's usually within a day or two. And if not, we have someone else upload them for us. And then everything is also on YouTube, so you can always go back and check because everything's uploaded to the YouTube site for the city. And I believe I've gone back and looked at historical records and watched historical videos from several years ago during some research I've done for different projects I've worked on. I'm not sure how long the requirement is to keep them up there. I don't think it's forever, but I know it's for at least 5 years, I'm pretty sure. So I know we're just following that mandate to keep them up for archive purposes. We don't save them on an internal drive or anything like that. They are just posted. I believe they do stay on YouTube for perpetuity, but I'm not entirely sure. I can't speak to that fully.
Okay, if we happen to want to recommend that, is that something, who creates that policy?
That would have to come from direction of council, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Yeah, they would have to direct staff to, because that would require, if we wanted to keep a historical record internal log, that would require more bandwidth, so we'd have to purchase, and so that would have to involve budget, so that would have to come from council.
Okay, I've just noticed a history of some meetings that were kind of heated, would not be available, and that was more than one time. And whether it's good, bad, the ugly, productive or whatever, I just think it's important that we have those records, but I may take that to council myself. Thank you.
Yep.
Andrew, you see your hand up, or Diane?
Diane beat me to it.
Okay. I do wonder, is there not a state law on how long you have to keep public records? Because I just think of.
I think there is, I
Okay.
don't know it off the top of my head.
A quick Google search says that, there are different entities have to define what that retention law is and have it published somewhere. I haven't got to the next one.
So I'm not sure for public record, I know for like planning records, we have to keep every case file forever. So we have to have archive of that. But for example, building plans, building permits, they only keep them for an X amount of years, and then they're wiped. So for example, if you buy a house that was done in the 70s, we don't have plans for it. I think they only hold them for 2 to 3 years or something like that. So each department is different for what their requirement is. I'm not sure what it is for public record. That would be an ORS. It'd be somewhere in the ORS. I'm just not sure off the top of my head.
Looks like Secretary of State has a whole slew in Division 200. You got city records, and then they're divided up into bonds, disbursements, financial reporting. So it looks like they have different requirements for the type of meeting documents that are to retain. So
Interesting.
many pages worth here.
Thank you for looking at that, and maybe by the end of the meeting we'll know.
Yeah, and just doing a browse on the city's YouTube channel, the oldest meeting video that I can find is 2 years old.
How?
2 years. But the list also doesn't seem nearly long enough to be 2 years worth of meetings. So that's a quick scan.
Thank you for that. Any other questions, any discussion on this topic? Anybody online? Looks like we have Paul and Tiffany? Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and close this item. We're gonna move on to discussion item C. And this is kind of, I wanted to get us started thinking about, now that we have all adopted the charter, kind of what our first steps are to really look at how we want to approach the public outreach and be more strategic about getting input. I know we had discussed some ideas of having, was it Marley come and present about the outreach they currently do and what feedback they're getting. So wasn't sure if people were feeling that's where we want to start and move forward that way, or if you guys had other ideas you wanted to start talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, this is Adrian. That sort of seems like the low-hanging fruit as far as the data that we already have. Because I know from previous presentations that have been made to council, the staff does have a fair amount of information as far as things like Facebook hits and people visits and visits to tents at First Friday and various things along those lines. So getting some numbers as far as what staff knows today about public engagement and public feedback, using and by portioned out by what methods they are. Like, I mean, what is our Facebook comment rate and boost rate for various things, and do we keep track of how many people are actually watching the YouTube videos, and email traffic and website hits and all of that stuff. I think would be a good place to start as far as a baseline presentation.
Thank you. Other thoughts?
Yeah, this is,
Oh, yes.
thank you. This is Kevin Minkoff. I attend I'm a commissioner on the Planning Commission, and last session, we had a conversation about CFEC and the parking situation and the mandates and so on from state. And the comment was made by the chair that there was a fear of reprisals from the community regarding the decisions that staff and the Planning Commission had to make. Tough decisions. We all agreed on the Planning Commission that those decisions were the correct ones, because we had choices provided by the state of Oregon, and yet it was still a significant concern that our citizenry would not be aware enough that it wasn't the Planning Commission's fault that these decisions had to be made. They're mandated by Oregon, and I chimed in at that point and said, well, that ought to be the purview of CAC to help provide that information about the CFEC and the parking regulations and the mandates and the clean energy, et cetera, that are coming down from Salem. And the response was, well, take it to the CAC. So I started thinking about, do we play, let me step back a second. It seems to me that a lot of what we do in terms of communicating with the public is passive. We post something on Facebook, we sit back and wait for citizens to come forward, which they never do. I do see things posted in the champion, but that's not from the CAC. I see whenever it occurs to the city manager, who will be different now, or maybe from the mayor bringing something up generally. But I'm wondering if we can't begin to think about something more proactive, such as maybe someone or some few people ought to discuss with the champion having a CAC column, for example. Doing other kinds of outreach to neighborhoods, whatever, rather than just relying on people haphazardly popping onto Facebook to see what might be going on. So that's what I would like to suggest, is that we start to brainstorm some proactive communicating.
Part of that brainstorm was really a question to declare, is for the, was it CFAC or whatever this thing is? When was there an estimate? When would there have been any input allowed at Salem from the representatives? When would have been the best time to influence that legislation?
Well,
Our citizens could have been involved in?
yeah, I can address that. There were lawsuits filed by 14 cities, something like that, maybe not,
After?
against Salem when those regulations first came out.
Right.
So planning
then
commission and
So
staff.
that's retroactive though, so my question is, when were those bills heard in committee? Right, is there a Troutdale legislative assistant or somebody who's keeping track of bills through the legislature that we should know about and provide feedback and comment to before they get voted on, and before we have to file lawsuits, and before we have to answer to our constituency about why we weren't responsible for this? It was something that came down through the legislature.
Thank you. Shelby?
I will just say it's our job as citizens to be paying attention to that stuff. The legislature does an insane number of bills, and it makes it really hard. We're all busy, but we should, as citizens, be paying attention to some of that stuff. And I know I try to pay attention more than I ever used to, and we should be on there trying to testify when we can. So there are organizations that put out stuff that we should actively engage, but to,
Maybe even the Oregon League of Cities would have some type of pamphlet that would come out and say, hey, look, they're voting on a bill that would change the minimum number of parking spaces in multifamily housing. Do something about this. And then the CAC can say, hey, time to get a hold of, what's his name? Corser?
or Zach Hudson.
Hudson, well, whatever these guys' names are.
Yep.
Here's their email, here's their phone number. You know, do you want minimum? This is the time to make your stand, not after it comes down, after we lose 17 lawsuits, and it's being held in a meeting, so we can all yell at Dakota. Just trying to help out here, bud.
Shelby, I agree with what you said. I know there's many bills that I have been following, and I think like this session, there was like 584, and a lot of those died, of course, but the ones that are like getting pushed through and now waiting to be signed. There are some dashboards that you can watch, depending on what type of bills you are interested in. I know I follow healthcare closely, so I have those kind of tagged to see as they're moving through. So I think it's a good idea to investigate it a little bit more and see if we can be more aware of the committee, and maybe those are things we could share also when we're doing committee comments, if there's something you know of that's important. Yeah, Kevin.
Yeah, Kevin Pinkoff. There ought to be, maybe there is, some staff attention paid to bills that are currently maybe making their way through, not dying on the vine, but advancing through the legislature that are gonna impact city ordinance. Is anyone on staff paying attention to those?
We all keep an eye, but it's not something that we focus on day-to-day, because it's not our day-to-day type thing. So if there's something that's like, oh yeah, this could have an effect, usually it's like, I'll know of something that may be affecting, maybe not necessarily Troutdale itself, but in one of my meetings that I attend, whether it's a muck tuck or T-PAC or one of those are mainly transportation-based bills. So we'll know if something's going that we're trying to lobby for something, as, you know, East County. But we don't have, like, we keep an ear down, but it's not something that we actively track, because that's what our representatives are here to do for us, is to then notify us if there's stuff that's coming down. More or less is when we hear, like, for example, with CFEC, that was something I wasn't aware of until Erica Palmer came on, and she asked Nicholas and I, like, hey, you know, where are we at with this? And that was something the previous director was supposed to inform us of, never did. So we had no idea until she came on. That's why we had asked for an extension, because that's something I didn't know was being passed down the pipe. Now with Housing Bill 2021, 2022, that was a little bit more known, because there was more articles about it. It was more discussion. There was more information out in the world, I felt like, where that was a larger discussion around the state, because that was something, you know, middle housing that was going to affect every jurisdiction over, I think it was over 10,000, or 5,000, something like that. So it was a hefty number of jurisdictions across the state. So we all kind of pay attention, but not on a regular basis. Like, I'm not keeping track of what bills are going. It's more or less when something comes to us, like, hey, this is something that's going to be passed, then we kind of play a closer eye.
Yeah, I think in just because of the sheer volume and complexity of what happens at either level of legislature, whether it's the state legislature or in DC, and I think it's unreasonable to rely on a single or even a small group of people to track and to communicate the implications of all of that stuff. Now, so it's one of those things where just awareness of when the legislative session is happening, and just more people keeping your ear to the ground as far as what items are of interest and what items are making noise is something that we can communicate the importance of to the general public. Because it's the swarm of eyes that is going to bring things to the right people's attention. Because asking one or two or even a half a dozen people to focus on that is just asking for insanity. Because they're not gonna be able to do it. And it's like having one person in an office being responsible for, solely responsible for communicating all of the changes to tax law every year. I certainly wouldn't want to do it.
I get what you're saying, and it makes sense. You're trying to actively provide information for people to get engaged and to see what maybe they could. I went to like organic, I went to Salem because I wanted cities to be able to do organic farming. And there was a whole big discussion on why that couldn't happen or whatever, but I went to subcommittee and actually went to testify. But what we could possibly do is, like, if we had a CAC corner, because the paper just comes out 3 times a year, or is it 4? Quarterly. Maybe we get at least one or twice a year. And then with an article that could be how to direct people to the dashboard, let them know who our representatives are. And then also a plethora of information is our city attorney, Ed Trunke, because his group represents a whole bunch of cities. So they're always working on those things of cause and effect. And he's friends with Dave Honeycutt, who does a lot of land, he's a Democrat, but does a lot of land use, you know, it's perfect combo. I mean, just saying that, he's no ulterior motives or whatever, just land use and whatever. So, but he's in contact with a whole bunch of different people from all sides, everybody, because he needs to know how this impacts communities and how to legally defend it or what to watch out for. So, he might be able to say, hey, a couple of ones to look out for that might affect your city, and then we get just like 3 from him. You know what I mean? So it's still an opportunity to inform people so they can engage. That would be my comment for that. And that also gives us an opportunity, when I mentioned for CAC, we get a little picture of us. For the CAC, we say a couple of things we do, and then we could say, hey, and by the way, you know, and then let them know. They might not know it's Chris Gorzik and Zach Hudson and who they are and what they, you know, what they do, so.
To support that notion, as well as to back up my suggestion in the first place, is to say, I completely understand when you say citizens are responsible to keep up with their legislators, and know what's going on, and to be educated electorate. However, for example, to dovetail on the tax law point, yes, I'm supposed to be up to date on Congress and what they're planning to do, and every bill that's going to have every bill does have some tax impact. But I subscribe to a number of third-party applications that notify me. They interpret, they distill, they extract the important information that I need to know at any given time. Because it's true, trying to go through a 1,000-page bill that's going to have various tax impact is really impossible. So in the same way, the CAC can assist the electorate in highlighting what they ought to be looking out for, and again, all of who their legislators are and how to contact them, and it would be helpful.
Anybody else hear that?
I was just gonna add that the notifying or reminding people who their rep is and who their senator, that's all fine. But these bills, they change when their hearings are, and you only have a window of opportunity to do it. And the publication, if it comes out in the Champion, it's too late. So it's, yeah.
But
I mean.
better than nothing.
But if there are bills that we see at the beginning of the session that they're talking about, ones, just trying to get people to plug into organizations that maybe are watching, and they could check those websites, because like I said, that's what I'm doing to try to keep up with the changes, and I don't do it every week. Just whatever I have time to do, pay attention. So, but wonderful to get citizens to pay attention more. I mean, if we can. But I know people's lives are incredibly busy, and to fit all this in is always very hard, so.
One of the things we had been talking about was perhaps putting some articles in the Champion, and I know from one of the other committees that you chair that I think you were almost the whole paper that was your wonderful pieces. So I don't know if you wanted to talk to the committee a little bit about what that experience was. Was it hard?
No, it wasn't hard. They were just very, I'm trying to remember the gal's name I worked with. It's escaping me with the city, who I worked with. But she just told me, oh yeah, when I said I have an article we want with public safety, we had some things that we wanted to put into the Champion, and she thought those article ideas were fabulous. So when was I getting them to her? And I'm like, oh gosh, I guess I assumed they would do the research and do it, but okay, so I had to figure that out. It didn't end up being as bad as I thought, because I actually just dovetailed off of using the website we have and just trying to explain a few things that were there that people might not have known. finding the frequently asked questions section, that, there's just lots of good information there. So it was really Kelly Graham, that's who it finally came into my mind. Yeah, so super, she was very accommodating. She just said, if you've got an article, I'll really try to get it in. So it was very good. So the whole experience, I think if we wanted to have an ongoing or just occasionally an article or a little section that we wanted to put tidbits in, I'm sure she would totally be fine with that. I didn't pursue it. We talked about with public safety because I just want to get those articles in that time when she said I could. But I was going to follow up with her later and say, well, if our committee comes up with something every quarter, we'd like to be able to put a little snippet in there. And I think that they would accommodate it, so.
I love that idea, and maybe what we could do is plan when our new members come on, we, like the second meeting after that, we take a picture, and then we try to get some fun facts in, or, something to speak to who we are. And then Adrian, was your hand up?
Yeah, it's just, I guess to kind of pull things back just a little bit. One thing to kind of keep in mind is that, our primary purpose under goal 1 in the charter, in addition to communicating out specific information, is to focus on facilitating the communication pathways where the information goes back and forth between the city and our citizens. Because, there's a lot of information that staff has and can have that doesn't necessarily need to go through us to get to the citizenry. It can go straight there. As long as we are facilitating those channels and making sure that that information is set up to flow smoothly. And that's I think where our primary, because we don't meet often enough or long enough to really be a communications department. That's just, we're not set up for that. Our primary goal, I think our most effective goal, is gonna be to hold the people who are managing those communication pathways accountable to actually send that information where it needs to go.
Right. So it sounds like we have some good ideas. I know we had talked about Marley coming and presenting a while ago. Do you know if she opened to that? Should I?
I can reach out to her.
Okay, that would be great.
See what her schedule's like.
And we'll continue the dialogue next meeting. Is there, oh yeah, Will.
A couple ideas for us. Definitely would agree with us trying to gather a list of all of our current methods of engagement. Like, what are they? Like, let's write a list down, let's get them all there. And then try to figure out some way of gathering how effective those things are. And Marley might be a great resource for that. But I think there's also a lot of things that maybe we're missing. One of which I think that would be important for this group to at least review for the very first time is what are the current City of Troutdale public notice requirements regarding developments, regarding lot line adjustments, development, building, those sorts of things. Anything else that we need to give public notice for, and what does that look like? If it's 300 feet from a property line where a brand new apartment complex is gonna be built or something, is the person 305 feet away not gonna get noticed and then be upset? Like, maybe we could review some of those things and see if we believe those are effective and reasonable or not. So then, I think once we have that and have that information, we can see how effective they are. We can look for additional and new methods of communication that might be more effective. Something such as, maybe making some tweaks to how we're doing social media or how we're doing things in the champion and timelines for those
things that need to go in there and make sure that those things are getting hit so they don't get skipped. I know recently, it's silly, but it's just sort of like the metaphor of the champion came out after the hazardous waste day or whatever happened, like just little things like
Pretty
that.
simple time.
But, maybe we could also consider us, doing the First Friday booths or the movie at the parks or, things like that. I also would really like to dive into and figure out what was different this time with gathering volunteer applications for our city committees. I personally was quite excited to see how many new and different people were coming out and looking to volunteer. What was it this time that was different? Was it just the same thing that we've always done? It just happened to get a bumper crop of volunteers for some reason, just out there, and that's people who wanted to be volunteering? Or was there something truly different that was done that really brought those people out? As far as the methods of outreach and so on regarding the website, social media, maybe a quick conversation with those folks about how amicable they would be to implementing some of our ideas or making changes that different groups that have things they want to be out there, and what that process is like, and maybe if there's a way for us to facilitate a little more arm's length interaction with those people, and then share that information with all the other groups and all the other committees, and then open that pathway of communication to making it easier. I think they do a great job of postings and all that. But hey, maybe parks or historic really has something important that we want this to be promoted out there. How do we, shorten those pathways to make that happen? And then kind of following up on that, I kind of had an idea that it might be fun to create like a quote unquote TikTok type video on how do you come in and make a comment to the city council? I know for me personally, I had been on CAC and then took a break, and then I had something that I was personally very motivated to go and make a comment about probably, 10 years ago or something. And even after having the experience of being on this committee, I was almost shaking, going and talking in front of city council. So I can imagine there would be a lot of people out there that just don't know. They don't know what the inside of this room looks like. They don't know how simple it would be to walk in the door and tell us about your coyote problem or your chickens or whatever it is, and just maybe trying to find ways to make it more accessible and approachable, and maybe break down some of that wall and, oh, I can't do that, or I don't want to do that, or, kind of helping to make it a little more palatable for folks. And then a last comment would be just to make sure that we are recording all the meetings and posting all of them from every committee onto YouTube, so that no matter what, everybody can always go back and look. I think that would be most of my comments for tonight.
Yeah.
One thing very quick, just because I know Planning Commission makes this comment every time it comes up, is that with regards to the notice requirements, I know that what the city does as far as both the notice radius and also the time frame is well in excess of state mandates. So it's I think it's all, in some cases it's double, some cases it's not quite that, or so, I don't remember exactly what the numbers are, but I know we do a lot more than what we are minimally required to do. The only real headache that I have seen in recent memory with regards to public notifications of applications is the little problem of the notifications have a tendency to go to the property owners and not necessarily the property residents. But that's a whole different problem.
I totally am all over that TikTok. Always so fun. Yes, Victoria.
On the applicants this time, I'd like to give some credit to Tiffany, because she had a booth for parks and she really was trying to recruit people. You wanna say anything, Tiffany? No? Anyway,
I'm not very good at using the Zoom yet. I'm still trying to figure it out, but thank you. I would be curious to ask all the applicants where they found the information, because I think a lot of them got it from either Facebook or the Champion, just from being a part of the interview process. I know that there were posters all around, and I think Frank had something to do with the posters that were everywhere all over town, maybe.
Maybe.
Maybe. So I don't know if that had something to do with it or not, but I would like to see in the future some of those questions change so we can find out either during the interview process or after the interview process where people got involved. So I don't think it was totally me. I mean, I tried to tell every single person that I talked to about it, but those posters were literally everywhere. So that was our boots on the ground friend there, I'm pretty sure.
Well, that might be an opportunity next month, because with everybody here, we cover all the committees, is if each committee, as we welcome our new members, that we also during that, figure out where they heard from that. We could do a little bit of informal research and bring it back. If you guys will accept the assignment.
Is that true, Frank? You have posters?
I can neither confirm nor deny.
Well, I don't know.
Hi, this is Frank. I can neither confirm nor deny. I'm taking the fifth on that one.
Well,
Joe might be looking me up based on that, so.
either way, some did happen, and I'd like to figure out what it was, and if that's where we need
I
to
would
go,
agree.
that might be something.
This
that we
is
really
Frank, so yes, I would definitely agree. I actually I think I sent one to Ken to ask him the same question already, about how did the word get out? What worked, what didn't, what could we do in the future? Why do we have such a short timeline? If we don't get enough candidates, why aren't we going back and asking again? Just doesn't happen. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in there. I mean, that's a whole discussion all by itself. If you want to make that an agenda item, that would be a recommendation.
we used to go back and ask again, and then we still didn't get that many. And then it was making the committees go further and further down the year.
Right, which, can I take a second? So let's go back to, I mean, just pull up your basic citizen advisory committee. We're primarily charged with encouraging city involvement as identified by Goal 1 of Comprehensive Land Use Plan. How many of you guys have read Goal 1?
Most of us, but it's in the last couple of years.
I mean, these are things that new people are gonna be coming in.
Yeah.
So as you guys are talking, I don't think we're a political action committee, and we shouldn't be. I think communication is our goal. Last time I checked, we don't have any neighborhood associations in Troutdale. That's crazy, really? I just find that hard to believe. We have HOAs, a couple, but not a lot. We don't really have a network to go out and touch people established. I think that would be, I mean, for me, that's one of the main goals of pulling in this goal of encouraging citizen involvement. That means going out and hitting the streets and pounding on doors. I did it with Tiffany up at Sandy Palisades for the wildfire. We were handing out flyers door to door to make sure people were aware that there's an opportunity for education there. And I would hope that that helped with some of the results. Is that always gonna work? Maybe not, but at least you're out there doing it. I think that's part of our mission. The other, I love how Kevin, you nailed it on the head, we have an active and passive, and I think that would be our cross mark with, we have an active game and we have a passive game. And social media kind of blurs that, and so does data, so you can kind of see it from both sides. But some of the things I hit were neighborhood associations, the CAC column in the Outlook is a great idea. The first Friday, the movie night, having a table at all these city events, that's citizen involvement. That sounds like 101 to me. And then from a standpoint of how we conduct our meetings, I think we should have a bucket for action items and agenda items. So we're not repeating. This feels like a conversation I had last year, and we're not making any progress here. So I know I would love to see an action item list from each meeting, and we start checking off or adding or taking away from that. Thank you. That was for Tiffany.
I was gonna say, that's really cool of you guys to do that. It's really neat. Very commendable.
It was a really rainy day.
To talk about wildfires too.
Yeah,
right?
to talk about wildfires.
That's awesome.
Oh, is your hand up,
Oh,
Kelly?
no, I'm just thinking.
Okay. Well, anything else to add? What I'm hearing is step one is we are gonna start with our presentation. And we will start learning more about how successful we have been with our current outreach. And then as we're learning what's been effective, what is passive, what is some of our kind of guerrilla warfare approach to doing more active engagement.
Tactical urbanism.
Oh, I love that. That's, yeah, I didn't have much time to find the right words there. That was much more polished, thank you. Then we will look at what would be the best ways to go about that. And then in the meantime, look into perhaps having a First Friday booth or something where we can just get out there and talk to people and see what's on their minds and see perhaps if they know about the parking requirements and know that the was not our gift. All right, anything, oh, Will.
I might
yes.
make a suggestion that we set ourselves a group goal to do the August, First Friday.
August?
Yeah, we just plan, like,
There's
maybe
no
we just
July.
make a commitment that one way or another, we're gonna show up and just be present. I
Yeah.
don't believe there's one in July, because it's
Yeah,
4th of July
4th of
weekend,
July.
so that gives us next meeting as well to
Yeah.
really focus on it.
If you, I plan on attending the movie nights. I'm organizing bike rides to the movie nights. So if you need a table at the movie nights, I could be there for that. So count me in.
We're not over here.
Yeah, we have to lay down on carpet.
Do you know who we contact to get a table at First Friday?
This was part of my staff comments. So actually, I was going to, there's a couple of reasons why, but this is something that we were wondering, because I know we tabled last year at First Friday, and that's something that we wanted to ask you all if you'd be willing and interested in tabling another First Friday. Clearly, it's a resounding yes. So that's great. And so, yeah, what we would do is we would just, either I or you could reach out to Chrisanne, because Chrisanne sets up that for, as far as planning goes. It's Marley who organizes the events, but then, you know, Chrisanne for like if any other committee needs a table. I know she did a lot of them last year, setting up for each committee and who wanted to be there, because we tried having one or two committees at each First Friday to just, again, be that connection point with the community. So, yeah, that was wonderful.
Is Chrisanne also the external contact, so if the Boy Scout troop wanted to have a booth?
That would be Marley.
All right, Boy Scout, Marley, internal.
Committee,
Chrisanne.
yeah, Chrisanne.
Can we get the really cool fish pens?
We do have fish pens, yes, yes, we do have fish
People
pens.
love them.
Yep, she just said that on Monday,
I have mine
everybody
in the
loves it.
fridge. That's
Yeah, and so maybe in our next meeting, we can talk about our strategy for engagement. Did we have a spin wheel, or what did, we had
I
something.
bought a spin wheel, I couldn't, yes, I did buy a spin wheel.
Okay, so it'd be great to have some questions that we can somehow associate with it.
It's only about yay big.
You know,
It's a desk.
Tabletop is all we need.
is it big enough to manipulate, or should we?
Oh, no, I'll bring it next meeting,
Okay,
yeah.
that'll be fun.
Alright.
All right, well, thank you guys, good discussion. Anybody online have anything to add to that? Any public comment? Okay, we're gonna move to agenda item 5, staff communications.
Alrighty.
Sorry we stole your glory.
Oh, there's more to it, so I got more for you, don't worry. So it's been a pretty busy little bit of time as far as code amendments go. For those of you who stuck around for the very long city council meeting last week, CFEC went to city council last week, I believe, right, but it was us last week, yeah. For the first reading, I was also at city council last week for the second and reading and adoption of our FEMA update. So that's been approved. So now we're just waiting for 30 days for any appeal, which that won't be an appeal. So that's been approved. As far as just basic kind of projects going on, we've had a lot of pre-application meetings come through. One recently for the repair or removal and repair of the Beaver Creek Bridge. So they're starting to work on that project. It's already been removed. Now they're just kind of going through what was needed as far as replacing it. Sorry, the replacement of the Beaver Creek Bridge. I'll have 2 pre-apps coming up. One's for a lot line adjustment off of 5th and Buxton. And then another one is kind of a pre-app, not pre-app. It's already an approved project. They just wanted to come in for a meeting to discuss the conditions. And this was approved several years ago. They have an extension. So that's what they're working on. I know Nick is working on another pre-app, but I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. I can actually just pull it up real quick, actually, since I have my computer here. One moment. Let's see, Beaver Creek Bridge, those are mine. Oh yeah, then, what was this one? This was for Stark. Just quick little glance here. There was this pre-app's already been completed. For a lot line, for a partition of a lot off Southeast Stark for the potential of cottage clusters or townhomes. So they came in with a lot of questions, not really sure what direction they wanted to go. So Nick handled that one regarding the potential for what they could do. So we probably won't hear from them for a little bit. They got a lot of information back, so now they're going to sift through and decide what route it's going to be financially and so forth. We are going to Planning Commission. I'm going to be going to Planning Commission next week for a introductory / work session for our grant that I've been working on for the Main Streets on Halsey Corridor Code Amendment. So we'll be bringing that next week with our consultant, MIG or MIG. They will be coming with us, just kind of talk about the project and just kind of get a little bit of feedback from the previous work that was done that was denied late last year, I believe it was. Based on that work that was kind of done, what did they like, what they didn't like, and on that note, that brings me to why I was going to talk about tabling, is with this project, we want to do a lot of community engagement because the goal of this project is to come out with clear code amendments for design standards along Halsey Corridor to advance kind of, in my opinion, and the vision that I have for this project is a continuation of the downtown along Halsey Corridor west. And so, again, I kind of mentioned this last time, that we can't tell people what to build, but if they do, now they have to make it look a certain way. So we want to have a lot of community engagement, one with the businesses in downtown, businesses along the Halsey Corridor, along with the CAC will be coming here to some of the meetings with review and work sessions, as well as with Planning Commission, several work sessions and review. We haven't completed our community engagement plan yet. It should be coming to me early next week, because that's what we'll be discussing at Planning Commission. But that is something I would like to see if this committee would be interested in really kind of maybe taking one event, and again, we were talking about going to First Friday, and kind of talking about the project. Ideally, I'd like to have you all see and have a work session with you all first, before First Friday, so that way you all understand, so you can help kind of explain what we're looking at and kind of get an idea. We won't have any code amendment draft stuff. Right now, we want to gain feedback. And then hopefully we can turn that into code amendments, or here are some ideas that we got from Planning Commission and from the previous work, and what do the public think about that? So that's something that I would like everybody to kind of start thinking about, and then hopefully at our next meeting, I'll be able to come back with, hey, this is, and kind of give a presentation on it, and have a little work session prior to the first Friday in August. I will be out of town in August, so I won't be able to attend that one, but we're also thinking again in September. So that's kind of the idea right now. So just kind of mull that over on what possible, because really, again, with like what Frank, like what you had done, I want to see how we can gain feedback from our downtown businesses and the businesses along the corridor. That's, I think, a group that they had a voice the first time, but it wasn't really heard. And I really want to make sure that we hear all the voices this go around and really make it the city's project rather than the Tri-City project. That's the goal of this project.
I was on Main Street Sahalzi as a citizen advisory capacity 2 years ago. It pretty much ended at 257th, and that was purposely because we were at the stage you're talking about where we hadn't quite decided how Troutdale was going to interact with Fairview and Wood Village. So we kind of stopped at that point. So that information is all readily available. If you would like to go to the Main Street Sahalzi website, that data is all there, and a lot of the information is going to be available. I'm sure you're recapping a lot of the info.
Yeah, that's currently what they're going through right now, is I send them all the information, there's a lot.
Is MIG gonna be part of the public outreach?
Yes, so they're part of it to an extent. So they're part of it where they're putting together kind of the plan and stuff, but I chose to have that be the city's focus. And have that be staff. Rather than, they're not going to come to any of the community outreach, like events if we choose to do an event, things of that. And they're not going to attend, but they're gonna put together, they will come to our work sessions. So that's something that they will do. So it's just, but as far as going out and, speaking to neighbors, speaking to business owners, speaking to the public, they're not going to be as involved in that.
Okay.
And ideally, what I'd love is when we discuss that for a work session here, I would love if we can, try to get people in the seats, because it does, while it doesn't affect where people necessarily live in their homes, it does affect the downtown. And as you mentioned, yes, it did stop at 257 for a purpose, because the design standards for downtown are different. We're not messing with those. We're not going to touch the downtown design standards. But I want to see what we can do to change our design standards going west. Because right now we don't have any. And that first project was designed for that. And that was the hope of it, but there was just too much in there that wouldn't work. And that was, it didn't feel like it was for Troutdale. And so that's ultimately why I believe it was denied, why we recommended denial. For that code amendment. Now we were kind of going back, but we're kind of changing the mindset where it is still Main Street's on Halsey, but it's a focus for Troutdale.
This is Frank. I think it was a great baseline, but it needed, as you said, much more local, and businesses weren't involved at all. So that was part of the downside. Just FYI for, I don't know if you guys have followed, but typically most cities contract out the public input. So you end up with a company that basically goes out and grabs your public input. So they do the outreach, it's usually a grant. It's part of the grant typically. That's a gutsy move, doing it with staff. I appreciate that, thank you.
And I realized that the amount that we had slated was a little bit more than we initially thought. So I have funds for us if we need materials, things like that, we have grant money to spend on our outreach, even though, because initially what we went out for RFPs was one number, and then I looked at the grant and it was actually a little bit more. So we gotta spend the money. So we have to use it. And so that's why this is ideally, we have to have this wrapped up right after the first of the year. That's when we should be going for adoption, is the first of the year. And a lot of the code work will be done right around October. That's when we should kind of get our ready code to where we can look, review, and then if we need to tweak anything, go into planning commission in November, and then ultimately December and January to city council. So we have the time from now really until September through September, early October, to try to gain feedback, tweak things, and especially because they're going to be doing the initial code audit, that's what they're doing now, and then they're going to continue to kind of piece together and work on code and send us stuff. What do we think? We mark it up, public marks it up, this committee marks it up, planning commission marks it up, sends it back. And we're planning on doing 2 work sessions with planning commission. I don't believe we're planning on doing one with city council. And then ideally, I'd like to do 2 on the books, and then 3 to 4 with just me here. So 2 with them here, 2 extra with me, just me discussing. So this will be something on our agenda that I'll either be giving presentations or updates about and loving feedback for probably from now until September.
Cool.
Yeah.
Bill, did you?
Yeah, just wanted to use that information to maybe kind of plan out the next few meetings and get an idea of what we think might be the best outcome or the best way to do that. We have the July 2nd Wednesday meeting, but then there's no July 4th, first Friday. In August, the first Friday is literally on the 1st, and our meeting's not till the 6th, so it's kind of backwards. And if we did it in July for the August 1st, it's a full 30 days of me forgetting everything we talked about,
Right.
you know? So September 3rd is our meeting, and the 5th is the Friday. That might be the best one for us to download that info, show up on Friday, and be ready and present in that moment.
And again, I'll be discussing this every meeting too, but I think that's a good idea. I like that. It's where we have the meeting right before the first Friday event.
I can remember, it was before I was on any city committees, and I believe it may have been a CAC, something I went to give input on, and you guys had these wonderful pictures, and like everybody got dots, and it was just great. So I can see there's gonna be some great visual ways to, I think, engage the community and get feedback in different ways, so.
And that only being 2, like basically a Thursday and a Friday might not be enough time for all that to happen, but if we have some ideas ahead of time and they're ready to.
Okay, so September, Chris Ann, we good with the September one? First Friday? Also, it might be a little cooler than August.
Well, I mean, I might still push in July that we do an August one anyway, for us.
Do you know, Diane, in talking about this, is there an opportunity to get in the paper prior to that to say, come meet the CAC at September's first Friday? Is that a possibility?
The next champion.
I can't remember when it's going out. I'll have to find out.
Okay.
I'll have to ask
See what I'm
Kelly
saying? So
when it's
that-
going out.
At least we could put engagement and say, come talk to us, and we could even have another paper says, what are your questions or what are your needs? You know, just let them also, besides if there's a wheel and specific information, just kind of take a little kind of information, what's of concern to them.
If there's enough time for that, what I would love to do is also for me to put out a snippet about our code, about this project, and then put at the bottom in there is,
Yeah.
come see CAC at the tabling event on Friday, the first Friday. So,
Yeah,
And hopefully, if either in July or August, we're able to have Marley come in and discuss, that might open up some of those lines of communication for exactly that. And the other ways, I think, take 5 minutes to pop up a Facebook or an Instagram post. And that's a lot more dynamic than the dates for the champion, I'd imagine.
Looks like the next champion will be probably beginning of July coming out.
I'll have to see if,
Your
I'll check
deadline's
with
probably
theirs.
in the middle of this.
Yeah, and given that we're now into June, I don't know, the content for the July, August champions.
She
may
usually
already be
emails
set.
us if we need to set, submit your articles. So I'll check with her and see if there's still time.
Okay.
So I'll check with her.
So is the best way you think to get up to speed, to look at that, website, or do you think it's just to wait for the presentation?
That's not a bad idea, just to get some background context. It's
Yeah.
going to be different. But that'll give you a lot of background information of kind of, I think the original code amendment proposal is on there. So there's some diagrams and some things. And to give a little more context to this, when we went to planning commission for some work sessions, again, this is shortly after I had started. So I had to do a whole bunch of historical research because I had no idea about this. Project started in 2017 and then we ended it in 2024. It was supposed to be a 1 to 2 year project. And we kept extending because we had staff turnover, director turnover.
COVID.
So it just, COVID, things got lost.
Yeah.
So that's why when I came in, they came back, we did a presentation to planning commission, or the consultant at the time, which I believe was Cascadia Partners. And during that presentation, the planning commission, there was things that they did like they didn't like a lot of it just based on they didn't feel like it was for Troutdale. But what they did, there were certain pieces that they did feel like, hey, I like this idea, let's expand on it. Or how can we do something like this? We don't like this, but like if we can get rid of that and there's something along these, and that's where like kind of the design standards really came about, is they really like the idea of having a design standard for that section to make it feel more of a corridor. For example, having buildings that are more street facing with parking around the rear, or more glazing requirements, entryways at the corners, so it has that more old time kind of feel to it, where you have entries on corners rather than down a row with just straight corner down a row like a typical block, to where it gives you that kind of feel. So, and recessed entries, things of that nature that breaks it up so it's not just a line of potential buildings. And again, this is ideally what we'd like to see. We can't tell people what to build, but when they do, they have to decide on what design standards they're doing. So that's the idea that we'd like to move forward with. So some of that is in the older information. So you can go back, kind of review, and that way make your decision of what you liked and what you didn't like based on the previous one as well, because that feedback is good. In the meetings I've had with MIG so far, a lot of it is, okay, I sent them a lot of information from the historical information, a lot of our meeting notes, just kind of giving them what was the temperature of the planning commission on the previous one. What did they like, what did they not like? And just trying, so they can get a feel for, before they even come to planning commission next week, so they can kind of get an idea of, okay, let's tailor our plan this way, something that they're looking for, not just, hey, let's just go out there and do this thing and do some studies and then come out with, oh, that's not at all what we're looking for. So it was a waste of grant money, it was a waste of our time, waste of our effort, and a waste of everybody's time. So it's a good idea to go through and review that. It has a lot of information. It'll give you kind of historical background on it as well.
One other quick thing I'll throw out, because we've talked about First Friday and we've talked about movies in the park. A frequently overlooked city thing is the Mayor's Square Tuesday evening events.
Yeah.
So that's another opportunity if we wanted to have communication hangout space that we can potentially look into that as a venue as well.
Thank you. All right, I think we are gonna move,
Sorry. I kind of have a little list of things that we're trying to work on, and I guess kind of in the order that they come, we'll get there. But I have trying to collect the information and maybe a presentation regarding the current methods of engagement and the data to go along with that. I still would very much appreciate taking a look at our public notice requirements and then comparing them to the state, and that way we can just honestly say this group did take a look and we agree or we don't. And then, Main Streets on Halsey presentation from Dakota at some point this summer, and hopefully preparation for September, first Friday. And then, at some point, we should do, some talking about our planning for our booth, and whether we wanna do one in August and September, could potentially discuss that next month, and what our booth would look like, and how we want it to go, kind of do some planning with that. And then, I also really liked Frank's idea about setting an action item that we complete either between meetings or at the next meeting, and we just start checking stuff off, checking stuff off our list. So I would also be in favor of setting an action item and starting a list and starting to work through those things.
I like that, and I hopefully took good enough notes, and with the meeting minutes, we will be able to have that. Maybe we could put that at the bottom of our agenda that comes out, our action items. If we want to start with an action item, do we want to all review the Halsey, Main Streets on Halsey site? Does that feel like something that would help prime us, and then that we could wrap our head around ideas for the booth and stuff based upon what we learn and see there?
Yeah.
Could we add to that list, Dakota's comment about in the paper to put a blurb about it, but then also add, come see the CAC September, to talk more about, or to see our whatever upcoming project, Main Street on Halsey, or something, whatever, but.
One more item, our picture. And our TikTok.
TikToks.
Yeah, we can try to get the picture taken after, or at, or shortly after our July meeting, once we have our new people.
Yeah, good idea. Yes,
Do we know who our new people are?
we do, and when you are there and you take nice notes and you forget to take the notebook away, and I do know who they are, I just don't have it in front of me.
All right, good.
I think it still needs, council approval,
Oh, okay.
so,
I think it's
yeah,
at the next
at the next
council
meeting.
meeting.
So, it's not official,
Okay.
so, but highly recommended. Yeah. I did have one more question for Dakota. Concerning data, is Kevin Mooney a viable resource for media?
Yeah.
I was just wondering why we're going with Marley. Kevin seems to be more of the social media.
I feel like they both are. They work in the same office, so I was just kind of saying they're interchangeable.
I visit with
But
Don.
Kevin Mooney he runs our accounts.
Okay.
So it's Kevin Mooney who does our Instagram, our Facebook. Marley's our economic development, so she's very tight. They sit in the same office in the visitor center. So Kevin would be more for what we're posting on a day-to-day. Marley doesn't post the stuff. But as far as some of the data that she retrieved, I think what we're getting at is she retrieved some data from First Fridays and presented it to City Council last year. That was a project Marley.
Yeah, I've spoken to her about the Placer program, which is what she's utilizing for parks as well. So we've got some great data out there that we'll be able to utilize for grants, I hope. So,
Awesome.
Okay, let's move on to committee comments, and I'll start with you, Victoria.
Okay, here's follow-ups, from last month. Parking at Glen Auto, people are asking about it. The kiosk should be going in pretty soon. It's gonna be $2 an hour, $10 for the entire day. And of course, citizens in Troutdale will get free. I still think we're gonna get the bicycle people parking all day though. But, it's gonna be that city park. It's not gonna be called city, but the same thing, you do it on your phone. Follow up on 1,000 Acres. I talked to Captain Stewart, and at that time, they hadn't started clearing out, but they had the hook tea going in there. It was a 30-day notice that was given in May. They started clearing out June 2nd. If you want to see how it's going, you can go on KATU and put 1,000 acres in, and the videos will come up. The people aren't very happy. And now they have activists down there trying to prevent them from clearing it out. And I guess there was an incident with one of the activists that got maced by one of the people that hired to clear it out. It's being cleared out by the Oregon Department of State Lands, but they hired somebody. But they're determined to clear it out. So there is a lot of people out there. I guess some of them have lived there 20 years. So, and then on the RFQ, that's going to urban renewal on the 17th at 7 if you want to hear that, for the town center. Imagination Station's closed next week. It's getting repaired. Patched. Not truly repaired, but patched up. And on the fire district and the police, looks like we'll have, it looks like we're getting a 3-year contract again with Multnomah. And a 1-year contract with Gresham. This is all tentative. And then we'll probably be going to fire district Blackness Mine. But this will give our committee something to do too. We're gonna have to try and get a fire district measure passed. And that's gonna be hard. But if we get the fire district measure passed, then we'll have money in the general fund to start our own police force. And it's gonna take time, but we can get shortened contracts this time. And they're gonna be talking and there's gonna be a fire and police fee. And I know they talked about it last city council, but I think it's on the city council to June 10th. So, and I think that's it. Oh, and thank you that I'm on town center again.
Quick bit of clarification on your first one with the parking at Glen Auto. Did they say if they were gonna be enforcing that and how that was gonna be enforced? Or is it kind of the honor system?
That's not determined.
Okay.
I know we had a private security there last year. I don't know if that's gonna happen again, but I will ask at Parks.
Yeah, this,
It's on Parks.
yeah, it's on Parks, and Parks is gonna use the same group they did as Glen Auto piece.
Security that they use for Glen. We'll be doing it. Administration.
Cool, thank you.
Alright, you're up.
Thanks for letting me come again. Great meeting. That's all I gotta say. I've had a sore neck, so I'm just trying to be quiet.
Oh, so many projects. If you would like a briefing on 1,000 acres, I've done a lot of research on that in the past year, which I presented to the safety group, and I'll probably do a comment to the council as well, so that they're aware. It's complicated, there's a lot of details there. I can only recommend that when you go to social media, understand the social media, and they're only highlighting one side of a story, and they are not looking at the history, they're only looking at today and what's in the news today. So anything you see on YouTube, just be aware, understand that there's more to it.
Oh, you're right, they did say, that it's because of the city of Troutdale's pressure that they're removing all those people. They said that on the news.
So it's all Woodrow's fault,
I can take it.
or Dakota's, I'm not sure. I did have the opportunity to ride, I don't know if you guys know the new Sasquatch buses and you see these double deckers, oh my God. They have 3 buses, it's $5, so if you have friends that are visiting, family, and you wanna ride out to Multnomah Falls, it's $5 out for both out and back. You can take your bike, you can take your dog. I've done it 3 times now, once with the bike, once with the dog. We hiked Wakena Falls, the 6-mile loop.
Where do you park to pick that up?
At Columbia Mall.
You're allowed to.
So the same place you would for our first Friday. So this is really tying in with our infrastructure network really well. And then imagine that along with our new Sharon Nesbitt Park. And these are some great things happening down there, so, yeah. And I love the fact that we were on the top deck, and my dog was looking out the window in the seat next to me. He was so happy. Yeah.
So cool. Can't ride a dog.
You can. Dobby's always ready. I don't know why I brought him on with him. He's in charge. Yeah, so great meeting. Really love the fact that we're making some progress and getting some action. Main Street to Halsey is heavy on the infrastructure, the transportation infrastructure side of it.
That's a different project.
Yeah,
So it's same but different.
but different, exactly. So, good read, but just understand its history, and it's got its own agenda at the time, I guess you could say, so, but it's great information, and it really gets you prepped for the next discussions. Thanks.
Yeah, good meeting all. It's always nice to see a full house. Yeah, once again, June 14th, 9 AM to 12:30, Sam Cox Building, Glen Auto, come play games.
Hold on, say that again?
Yeah.
June 14th, 9 AM to 12:30, at Glen Auto Park in the Sam Cox Building. Bring family, bring friends, come play games.
It's a Monday,
So that's a Saturday morning.
electric or board or what?
All board, all tabletop,
All tabletop.
board games, card
You
games,
teach me how to play Magic?
no. I could,
Thanks anyway, Adrian.
Adrian, did you use the whole entire room?
we were certainly set up to, we didn't have the numbers to even come close to needing it.
Okay,
But yes, we had tables enough to use that whole room.
okay, but do you think, will you be using the whole room?
It all depends on how many people show up. I would love to.
Okay,
I would be thrilled if we filled up that room. I don't see it happening, but I would be thrilled if we did.
okay, I'll talk to you after. There's Officer Copeland is having a big event right after yours. I'll talk to you later about
Yes,
it.
but yeah, we'll chat. Also, now that we have, our farmer's market back at Mount Hood Community College, I encourage people to go visit them. As the season has progressed, the number of vendors has increased, because the first couple weekends were a little sparse. Get the people out there, get patronizing, and they'll keep growing, and eventually it'll be pretty awesome. So.
I know Victoria kind of already touched on it, but the RFQ and the initial concept plan is out, and if you guys are interested in seeing kind of what the general skeleton, I mean, nothing is set in stone. It's literally just, are these people qualified, and do we want to continue a discussion with them? But there's some really interesting stuff, and I'm sure that is going to be a big part of what's happening over the next 3 to 5 years or whatever it takes to get that vote. Secondly, reminder that there's 2 arts events happening this weekend downtown, and the entire downtown will be shut down, like the whole Columbia River Gorge Highway will be shut down between Buxton and, is that Kibling down there? So plan for that. And it is 2 events, so it's the first Friday, which is more local handmade gifts, and then the weekend is more the fine arts stuff. There's multiple days you can come down and participate. And then, yeah, just really appreciate Dakota and Chrisanne for all you guys' support and help, and thank you all for a great meeting.
Thank you. Yes, I ditto the sentiments. Good meeting, making a lot of progress. I think that since we revamped the bylaws, what are we calling it? Charter, thank you. That word just had to escape me, and I was pondering. Since revamping the charter, I think that's given us a clear direction into the future, so great work, everyone. I was wondering if that Mount Hood Farmers Market, even if it isn't another venue to have a booth, maybe we have flyers that somebody just goes and, hands out to people about the CAC at Farmers Market. So another proactive opportunity. And in terms of, it is in Gresham, but what the heck, it's borderline. We'll get a big fan on our side, blow the flyers over to Mount Hood. And speaking of, they'll do a shameless plug, speaking of First Friday, I sing at Pompelo's, Sinatra and Dean Martin, and I'm expanding into Billy Joel and Neil Diamond and all of that. I sing every First Friday, 6 to 7. I take a break from 7 to 7:30 and sing again from 7:30 to 8:30. So please stop by.
Oh my gosh.
You take requests?
I do.
Awesome.
Neil Diamond.
Pompelo's.
So,
Ristorante di Pompelo's.
outstanding. Oh, I get so many good.
And Friday, they have unlimited spaghetti and meatballs for one low price. Includes salad and dessert, and yeah, it's great.
I read that.
No, you will not be hearing me sing at Pompeo's. Although I did in the past love karaoke.
First Friday, this Friday.
Okay, thank you, wonderful meeting. I came to, oh my gosh, what meeting was I in yesterday? Whatever meeting I was participating in yesterday, or TCAP. Oh my gosh, the Job Corps is closed down.
Yeah.
Those were a lot of the volunteers for the Arts Festival.
Is that Springdale?
Yes, and I sent Dakota 2 pictures, I'm just proposing this to you all. If you went to the Troutdale Arts Festival page on Facebook, they're making their desperate plea. I felt so sorry for Marley. Events are really tough as it is. And then the timing and people asking questions and just the setup and the logistics of it are just so, there's just a lot of details. Fun, but details. So I sent them 2 pictures. One was the picture of the Troutdale call for volunteers. And then the other one explains, we're kind of in a bind. And then the where to get that information. I didn't know if that's something that we as a CAC, if we had permission, could send that out to all the committees via Dakota or whatever, Chrisanne or whomever. And this is just a way, because this is our city, this is volunteer, and they're in desperate need. We're gonna be providing some parking for Chisholm for the bigger rigs and stuff like that. We're gonna be, my husband and I will be accommodating that, and I'm gonna try to see what time I could slip myself in. But I didn't know, I should have mentioned this earlier, but if we have permission to, if that's a CAC, that we're just encouraging others to have this wonderful opportunity. If they have time, there's slots available to send the word out to everyone, all the other committees, to see if they'd like to participate, anytime on Saturday or Sunday if they have time to do so.
Is that on Facebook?
It's on Facebook. I have it on my Facebook page. I couldn't figure out how to, yes.
So I just typed in Troutdale Arts Festival on their website. On the very top, there's a volunteer with us button, and it clicks over and it's got all the list, the times, how many slots
Okay.
still need to be filled. So I'm gonna look through. Thank you very much for sharing that.
Sure.
Look through it, try to come help for a couple hours.
Yeah, so I don't know if that's something that we could ask Dakota. I mean, if we're in agreement that that's something that's worthy of sharing with the other volunteers
Maybe
of the,
sending out an email, a blanket email,
yeah.
that's a staff function, Kenda, right?
Yeah, maybe Kenda.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would, because I was gonna ask and see
Yeah.
who, but I think, I'd reach out to either Kenda or Sarah.
Is that, I mean, just a blanket email should be
Yeah.
appropriate. Yeah.
Are you in agreement with that? And then how should we go about that? Or
I think it wouldn't be a problem if you reached out to her.
Okay.
And, yeah, because it, like you said, it's not like a committee to committee necessarily, like, it's
We're not
try to get the
talking
word
business.
out, but it's really getting, try to
Yeah.
get the word out and stuff, so she could blanket that and try to, obviously, they're gonna continue to be posting it, so.
did you send it to me?
I will, yeah.
Okay, thank you. So, yeah, because it's a wonderful event and another great way to support Troutdale. Hey, and thanks for the meeting, everybody who participated, did their homework, or spoke.
Shelby?
You guys have said so many things, I'm like, maybe I was gonna comment on this, so great meeting, that's all I have to say, thank you.
All right, ready?
Well, I guess I wanted to say, thank you all for another great meeting, and also, I don't know why, but I feel like this table just shifted.
I don't know what happened, but I agree.
It's because they had it set up
Oh, and that big
this
thing
this
is
side,
gone.
that side.
Yeah,
Oh, that's.
and, I guess the other thing is I also just wanted to apologize because I was late, so. That's what I had to say.
I was waiting for you to start the Pledge of Allegiance and I finally decided to start talking. So.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
No. I was like, it just was not the same.
I'll do it.
Okay. All right, well, thank you guys. So just a reminder, our action item, our first action item, is that we're gonna review that, website and for a good discussion next time. And then I will follow up with Dakota with our list of action items for our agenda next time. And thank you all. Soon we're gonna have great weather. We'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
Who was the second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, have a good night.
Thank you.